was all about actually how do we reframe beer in a different way, in a way where it's all about flavour, it's all about the process, it's all about the craftsmanship that goes into it, and that was the starting point, and it's like, okay, well, how far can we go?
Welcome to the Craft Beer Travel and Adventure Podcast with Living a Stout Life. This is where we sit down with creative thinkers, on-the-road adventurers, and craft beer lovers. Your hosts, Ken and April, live, work, and travel in a 24-foot RV in search of inspiring stories around a great beer.
We're back.
Where'd we go?
Nowhere. We've just been super busy driving around the country. Well, we had Camp Carpe Diem, which many of you were at. Many of you were not. But
that was a blast.
And then we spent a lot of time traveling around, visiting family and friends and family and more friends, and getting back to Denver, where we've hunkered down for the holidays. Right at the perfect time of year where it's going to be sub-zero temperatures, which is really smart when you live in an RV.
I don't know if I'd call that smart. You know what's smart, though?
I was trying to make it sound smart.
What's smart is having beer ready to go when it's cold and you live in an RV. And we have that.
We do.
Ooh, we can talk more about the beer, Christmas beer, at the end of the podcast. How about that? Because I have a couple things I wanted to say about Christmas beer.
The one I'm drinking?
Yeah, we can talk about that later, too.
Fine.
Maybe we should talk
about... But I'm not going to wait to drink it.
You can drink it now.
Yes. That's some good stuff. And it's Christmassy.
All right. You've got your beer. Happy person, right?
Heck yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Christmas beers a little bit after the podcast, so make sure you listen all the way through. But we do have a guest on our podcast, as usual. Well, most times we have a guest on our podcast, so we're excited to have a guest on this one, too. Yay.
That's true.
Yeah, and it is Martin Dickie from Brewdog. We're excited to talk to him.
He was actually a very fun interview. A really fun interview. And, okay.
What?
So probably we should just go ahead and address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of Brewdog in the news lately, if anybody's been paying attention to beer news and brewery news. A lot of controversy around Brewdog. And to be honest, there's always been a lot of controversy since Brewdog started. That's kind of their marketing strategy has been to create controversy, I guess, and shake things up. And you'll hear about some of that marketing tactic stuff like in the podcast. But
so sorry to interrupt, but there are some, I know that's what you were trying to get to say, is that there are some issues going on that are outside of being silly marketing tactics.
Issues such as how employees were treated, and in a pretty serious manner. There's a lot of serious allegations that do need to be addressed.
And we just want to acknowledge that we are aware of those. But on that same note, we also want to still talk to the other people that are in the company, and people, are all still working hard in the company, and we don't want to discredit Brewdog in its entirety. So when we had the opportunity to sit down with Martin in the middle of annual general mayhem, or AGM, or stockholders meeting, or air quotes party.
Full transparency, we are equity for punks.
We are.
So, yeah.
So
make of that what you will.
What should they think of it? I
don't know. Anybody can think whatever they want.
What should they think about it? I think it's an excuse to go have a party at AGM.
That's a good thing.
Although AGM's open to the public too, so it's really not that exclusive. Anyhow, we jumped at that chance to be able to sit down and talk to Martin because, he was willing to tell us his story about growing up in another air quote thing, fishing village in Scotland. You'll hear the argument about that. As he says,
I still feel right about that one. I'm sorry, but I feel like I won that battle there. It's a fishing village.
Farming village?
Farming fishing village.
I don't know. Regardless, he grew up in Scotland, and it's really kind of cool hearing his story and just how he
built one of the biggest craft beer companies in the world and had fun doing it.
Yeah. So the whole premise, I guess, kind of thing is around the punk attitude
From day one. Absolutely.
He has a quote that you'll hear, and I love the quote. Yeah, why can't beer be whatever your imagination wants it to be? So that actually culminated into some of the biggest, highest ABV beers in the world, and it culminated into strange marketing tactics of like dealing with squirrels in beer. Yeah. Weird.
Didn't make Peter happy.
But that question, I think, is something that we can all, I mean, that's kind of what the premise of it was when it was started, is literally that. I'm going to repeat it again because I think it's cool. Why can't beer be whatever your imagination wants it to be? You know, the whole Reinheitsgebot thing is really great and all, because it is in Germany.
Yes.
And like staying true to the classics. But it is, because a lot of breweries are now going back towards the classic styles and the clean, crisp styles, and not having all the adjuncts and the high ABVs and all the different hazy IPAs that are, by the way, whether you like it or not, here to stay. But you can also have it on the other spectrum of doing whatever you want to create a beer that your imagination wants it to be. There's room for both.
Sure. Absolutely. I think there's totally, that's the great thing about beer is like, it can be whatever you want.
Yeah.
It can. And that's, I realize I just regurgitated his quote, but.
Maybe before you
but it's true.
Regurgitate other things, we should let Martin start talking.
I'm not regurgitating nothing, baby. Except that quote.
Here's Martin. And stick around to the end because we'll talk a little bit about Christmas beers, because this is going to be going out right before Christmas.
And if you're listening to this way later, just enjoy it.
All right, cheers. Start with the cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to the Craft Beer Travel and Adventure Podcast. We are actually here with, I don't know who, no, I'm just kidding, Martin from Brewdog. We're super excited to be here.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Because we own the company and we have the right to be here.
We own Living a Stout Life. No, we do not own Brewdog. However,
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do. We are equity for punks.
We own this much of it.
Okay, I like that. Cool.
So technically, you're my boss.
Oh,
Exactly.
dude,
It's like-
shit.
See, now you know how we got this. We landed this interview is because we said, "Hey, look, we do a podcast and we own your company, so you're going to be on our podcast."
Okay.
And everybody just jumped.
I like that. We have that much power. Anyhow, Martin, do you want to? I don't know. We think you're kind of cool. Do you think you are? That's like a
now I
loaded
do.
question. Now you do?
Yeah, sure.
I like that.
Yeah, he's on a podcast. He's famous now.
I know, that's cool.
So, I think, Kenny, you should kind of start with a very brief story of how we kind of basically fell in love with Brewdog.
Yeah, so for anybody who doesn't know, Brewdog is a craft beer company that started out of Scotland. Wow, 15 years ago now.
15 years ago, yeah.
15 years. And I first found Brewdog by watching a TV show that you and your partner James did called The Brewdogs on the little-known Esquire network in the United States.
I thought it was a big network. That's what they told us.
It's a big magazine.
That's what they told us.
It was a big magazine, but when it was a TV network here, it was like, and so this is 15, well, it wasn't 15 years ago, so it was 10-ish years ago, maybe?
Yeah, about 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago?
Probably 13 onwards.
Okay. And so at that point, everybody was still mostly on cable television. You know, we didn't have so much streaming yet. And it wasn't something that everybody had just naturally.
So how did you manage to find the Esquire network and tune into
I have
your
no
show?
idea how
I don't
I
know, but
found
he
it, and
fell in
I
love-
don't know how I found the show.
But you fell in love with
other
the
than I'm a beer
show
geek.
because of like how the very unique ways that you started, that you guys were brewing the beers, and how you went out into nature to do all that was really like.
Yeah, you did a really creative show on brewing beer, which is like, what's the craziest, weirdest way we can brew a beer that's local to an area,
Yeah.
And then
and a style that's
ultimately,
local to an area somewhat, or ingredients that are local.
ultimately, what I was trying to get him to is we went to a trip to Edinburgh to actually, he has the T-shirt on right now, Download 2016.
Okay.
We went to a trip to do that festival with our youngest kid at the time, and then we knew Brewdog was in the area somewhere in Edinburgh, but we like randomly picked a street, like let's get off of the tourist area and let's go down this street. And so we just turned down this street and we're just walking down the street, and all of a sudden I'm like, dude, I'm like smacking him in the arm. Brewdog, Brewdog, Brewdog. So we actually got to experience Brewdog in Scotland for the first time.
Actually taste the beer for the first
and it
time
was
after
really
being
great.
a fan for a few years.
So what we kind of want to know is, though, you grew up basically in a small fishing village.
No.
No? You still grew up in Scotland.
I grew up in Scotland.
Fine.
Scotland as a whole isn't a fishing village.
You said that.
Are you sure about that? No. Not the entire country? Okay, part of part of it's a distillery.
Wait. Can I just say that we've had too much beer to drink at AGM already? So we can just say you grew up in Scotland. Tell us the story.
But you're right. Well, you're kind of right, because I went to school in Peterhead, which is like one of the biggest whitefish ports in the world. So
fishing village.
Fishing town. But James, my partner, grew up in a fishing village, and his family are fishermen.
Actually, fishermen, and he was actually a fisherman at times.
He was a fisherman too, yeah.
But we're talking to Martin.
So
what's your story?
Oh yeah, my story.
Where did you grow up in Scotland?
Just in
Doing what?
A little village in between fishing towns.
Fishing village.
So we weren't on the coast, inland, but it was like a farming village in between fishing towns. And I guess from my side, it was, my mum was a teacher, my dad was in HR in one of the oil companies in Aberdeen, which is the nearest city to where we were. So it's like a famous oil town city. But yeah, I guess just a pretty regular upbringing. But we went to Orkney when I was about 10, I think, which is the little fishing island off the top of Scotland.
See, it always centers back to fishing somewhere, though.
It was more about
my
sheep
research
than
wasn't fully.
I'll try to focus better. Okay, so there's two groups of islands off the north of Scotland. You got the Orkneys and the Shetlands.
Okay.
The Orkneys is where I have some family members, and the Shetlands, which are even more remote, we have some family members up there as well. But we went to Orkney, which is where my mum's side of the family have cousins and stuff. So like you go to the island, and like probably 2/3 of the island is related to you in some way. And we went there when we were 10. I think we went twice. It was like 10 and 12. I think. First time we were 10. And we went to Highland Park Distillery, and that was the first distillery that I ever went to as a kid. And for me, it was like a super strange but exciting experience, because they show you around the whole thing. They had a small maltings on site, and I should explain better. My mum's side of the family, her parents and brothers are farmers. My dad's mum and dad were both doctors. My dad's dad was dead by the time I was born, but my grandmother from his side was a retired doctor when I was at that age. And there was like that weird thing of they were taking barley malt and turning it into whiskey, and I was like, and barley malt, was like, oh cool, that's what my uncles grow. That's what get to sit in the combine over the summer and harvest that. And then my grandmother, was a big advocate of whiskey, and it was like some kind of weird thing in my mind. It's like it was almost like a destiny job, in that one side of the family grew barley and the other side drank whiskey and gin, and it's like, okay, I need to be that, almost that sort of middle piece in the puzzle. And visiting that distillery up in Orkney was incredible. It's like big copper stills, all this kind of barley sprouting on the floor, and at the end of it you get the cool bottles of Scotch that were the same bottles that I'd seen in my grandmother's house.
So you knew at that point?
So that was like
that's kind of the seed. That the seed was kind of planted there.
And that I was like, cool. Like I didn't know what a distillery was before. I was like, this is amazing. I want to be a distiller in Orkney when I'm big.
So you really knew as a kid you wanted to be at least a distiller, if not a brewer.
No, a distiller, 100%.
But you wanted to be a distiller.
I wanted to be a distiller, and so once I got a few years older at high school, then I saw that there was a brewing and distilling program at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, and I was like, that's what I'm doing. And then you've got all the sort of parents' evening when you're kind of at that sort of 16, 17 age at high school, and you come in and you've got the guidance teacher saying, well, he says he wants to do distilling, that's kind of not a normal thing.
Right.
Close
How
to
does a guidance teacher handle that?
Close to Aberdeen, you should be an engineer in the oil industry, or you're okay at science. So I remember a chemistry teacher sort of pulling my mum aside during that school visit and saying, why is your son saying he wants to be a distiller when he could have a sort of pure chemistry degree at St Andrews University, a reputable university, and not Herrick-Watt University, who's basically a fancy polytechnic, and he's doing something obscure. It's like, get a proper degree, and one day he could be a teacher like me in this school.
Yeah.
And I have to thank my mum so much in that. It's like she just said, if you want to be a distiller, then go for it. We'll support you as much as we can, but do what makes you happy. So that was the route I chose. Everyone else went I went to sort of pure set was university to be an accountant or an engineer, or the standard 6 options, and you're this weird guy that's away to try and follow a distilling dream that kind of no one really knows what that is.
So on that note, I can kind of see where the punk attitude comes from. However, I can also see where it doesn't come from, because your parents or your mom's pushing you along to do the thing that you want to do, and you're following kind of in your family footsteps. So that doesn't seem kind of this punk against the grain attitude. So where honestly did that kind of punk attitude that Brewdog is really known for come from?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I went through the distilling program, or brewing and distilling program, and that was part of the beauty of that program is it's brewing and distilling, and through that 4-year course, I kind of got more into the brewing side, because they've got some cool equipment that you're making beer on one week and you're making spirits on the other week. And the kind of issue with the spirits is you'll do something and make something or do something different. It's like, well, how, when do I find out what the difference is? And it's like, well, you can't, because then it's to go into wood for 6 years.
Years.
Whereas in the brewing side, it's like, okay, well, your change, we'll taste it in 3 weeks' time once it's fermented and ready to go. And we used to have so many cool, on a Wednesday afternoon, there was the tasting sessions of, I guess, our year and then the 2 years above as well, from their brewing experiments. You do standard brewery taste panels, you're true to brand, the triangle test and all that kind of stuff. But the kind of weird thing in the back of that was it was fairly liberal at that early stage, and you were there, did your test, and then you kind of just stayed there the rest of the afternoon. It was a Wednesday afternoon, so that was when all the sport happened, and kind of cut short at lunchtime in universities, and all the guys that did sport were playing soccer or rugby in the afternoon, whereas the brewing guys were just sitting in this little lab area drinking beer.
Just drinking out.
And it was actually our year was the last year that they allowed to kind of have this free reign over the thing. As a guy.
So what happened there? Something I
there's
just
a
see
few
the look on your face. Something happened.
There's a few things happened, but I mean, one story
this.
was that there was this guy who cycled from Edinburgh. So Herrick-Watt's in the outskirts of Edinburgh, and it's maybe 5-6 miles from the town centre. And there's this guy lived in the town centre, and he would cycle along the canal out towards Herrick-Watt. So he did the beer tasting that afternoon, which ended up at started at 12 and ended at 4 or 5, and then he cycled home, and he ended up in the canal. There was a couple of weeks of these kind of stories came out to some of the the teaching assistants, and then made its way up through to some of the lecturers and the more principal people there, and so that was the last year
took the fun.
Last year of those things. But it was an incredible group of people. The guys in my class were from all around the world. Greek guys, American guys, Canadian guys, Finnish guys, some Scottish people. So it's a totally, I guess, group from around the world, which was
Right.
super fun. And part of the excitement that I felt in the brewing scene was that like all these people were being sent from around the world to study beer, but sent to Scotland. I guess it was that sort of centre of excellence, but it was a great way to meet people from all different countries and cultures quite early on. So yeah, that was university. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that was the turning point. University was where I said, okay, I don't want to be a distiller anymore. I want to be a brewer. And then that was like, okay, well, now that you want to be a brewer, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And I guess in graduating, it's like I just need a job. It doesn't matter where it is, And I guess you're trained through that process to be to be a candidate for a macro brewer. To be honest, it's all the education program is based on, or was at that point. It was back in 2000 to 2004. Was based on sort of lager brewing on a large scale and distilling on a large scale. And so we got to graduation, and you're like, okay, I need a job. So I applied everywhere I could to start with, and it's like, okay, Miller Coors, they're an awesome program down in Burton-on-Trent, the biggest brewery in the UK. And I got interviewed there, and then I was like one of the top 2 guys in the class that got like there's only two people got first in that year, and I was like, great, hopefully I can get a job in this big brewery in Burton-on-Trent. So I interviewed, and it's like declined for a job. It's like, how can we decline for a job? It's like, you just don't have that. You don't have a sort of managerial approach. Very little experience. You don't.
It's
seem
that
like
that circle that you get stuck in when you graduate. You want the jobs, you have the experience per se for university, but then you don't have the experience that the real world wants.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't get the experience because you just graduated. It's just like stuck circle.
It's like, where's your practical experience? I've just been learning for the last 4 years. It's like, well, okay, so I didn't get the job, and they're like, you don't have management experience. You look like a kind of pretty rubbish leader. And I was like, fine. So then I was like, okay, I need a job. So I pretty much applied to every single microbrewery in the UK and England. There's a few in Scotland, but there's a lot in England at that point. It's probably 250, 300 breweries in the UK at that point.
Did you get shot down at every 200, like all the 250 breweries?
Well, I sent my CV to everyone.
That's like kind of disheartening. Like stomps you to the ground.
Yeah, I mean it's hard, but it's like, well, you've graduated and you need to work, and you've got a very limited skill set. So it's like, what you need to do? It's either I go back and work at McDonald's, which I've done in previous years, or I need to find something that's specific.
Wait, that's the same opportunity or option in the UK as it is in the United States?
McDonald's.
Go work at McDonald's.
First job.
No, don't do it.
It's standard, I think everyone's kind of done that.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I sent it out to everyone, and then there was one brewery down in England which had just won the equivalent of the sort of American Brewing Awards. It's like the big GABF, which is the
Great American Beer.
Not great. It's the GBBF.
So
the equivalent of America. It's a Great British Beer Festival. So it's down in London every year, and it's basically like a camera-focused event of cask beer for the UK, which is it's a big accolade to hold. If you win that, and you're in a microbrewery, and it's 2005. You're kind of the bee's knees. So this brewery in the middle of England, in Sheffield, Kelham Island, won 2005 for their beer Pale Rider, which was 4.5% pale ale using Willamette hops, which is kind of a little bit weird because not many people were using American hops back then. I applied. So I went down to meet a guy called Dave Wickett, who was super interesting. He was like an economics lecturer in Sheffield University. Had this little brewery and pub called the Fat Cat, which is like a super well regarded cask beer bar. And then he had a can't remember where in America. We used to come out to America a lot, and he had a bar out in America as well.
Okay.
So he was exposed to like some of the American craft beer scene that was going on, and that sort of, I guess for him like late 90s into early 2000s.
Okay.
And he's like, he kind of liked what he saw, but at the same time he loved that traditional English cask beer stuff. So he's like, okay, well, we've got a job here, but there's also this new brewery that I've partnered up with that's 15 miles away that might also be interesting for you. So then this was 2005, so he like wrote the directions on a piece of paper. It was dark in November evening in England, raining down, and he's like, these directions, you get to this gate, this big gate, and you press this button, you have to speak to Jim. So it was like, okay, I went off on this journey down these English roads, single track roads through half of it in the Peak District, going from Sheffield to just outside Bakewell, which is like a little town there, and I got to this eventually found this big gate, and I was like knocking on the gate, and I was like, it's pointless, there was a keypad there, pressing keypad. I got into the place, and it's like this massive country estate house, and the guy who came out was a guy, Jim Harrison, kind of slightly eccentric looking guy, long hair, and he's like, welcome to Thornbridge Hall. And then we went from there to, I've just started this little brewery project with the guy from Kellam Island. Come and have a look. We don't have any staff yet, but I just bought this big fancy hall, and I'm going to redo it all up to its former glory. We'll have a nice Victorian garden. We're going to have basically becoming like a new age English gentleman in the middle of the Peak District.
Wow.
And he had this joiner's workshop, and he said, I've always wanted to have a brewery in the estate. So he rebuilt a fallen down joiner's workshop into a little brewery, a little 10 hectolitre system.
Okay.
2 vessel, single infusion mash kettle, and then there was like 4 fermenters, maybe 2. I think it was 4 fermenters, and then sort of that traditional English microbrewery thing of old Grundy tanks, which are like the 5-barrel tanks that used to sit in pubs, and then people would when they got taken out of pubs, they would then be cut in half and extended to twice their size.
Oh, wow.
So like these sort of cut and shut 10-barrel bright beer tanks in a cold area, and
nice.
It's like, this is what we're doing. We want to produce our own beer. We're doing a bit of contracting for Kellam Island at the moment, and then a week later I got offered the job there. So I was like, cool, let's do it.
And the rest is history.
So that was the start of my professional brewing career for sure.
Well, that was probably good to come in on that level where it was a business that was just getting started. So you got to see a lot of that you could then, once you and James started Brewdog, it's like you could apply different things to that.
Yeah, I mean,
and see what you wanted to do, what you didn't want to do.
It was
Different
exactly
approach.
that. It was I was there for 2 years, and it was like 2 years of learning how to make beer, learning how to sell beer, learning how to pack beer, learning how to make up little cards for sales sheets. It was phoning the people for sales. It was picking the casks back up, washing them. It was everything. It was a tiny little team. I was the first official brewer. There was a sort of guy, Dave, who would come and help out a day and a half a week, and then within a few months we had a second employee, guy Stefano Cosi from Italy. So basically it was 2 young, a guy from Scotland and a guy from Italy, kind of left loose to make great beer. And
That's cool.
It was basically that. It was like carte blanche, just make great beer, and that was what we did, or tried to do anyway. And I remember early on in that first year, we were lucky enough to have contact with Garrett Oliver of Brooklyn Brewery, and we did this sort of, I guess, a very early collaboration. It was 2005, where we took his beer, Blast, I think, which is like at that time was their big double IPA.
Okay.
And we tried to sort of recreate a UK American version of what this could be. So then we're looking with the hop supplier Charles Farham in the UK of like what American hops can we get and how do we make use of them. So that was probably like some of the earliest experience of, I guess, being exposed to not American beer but American hops in their sort of raw format and understanding of what an Tannin was, what a Willamette was, what a Crystal was, Cascade, Chinook. It wasn't like Simcoes and Citras and Mosaics. It was like some of the earlier stuff. But
right.
all of a sudden, when you're using a Challenger or a Fuggles or a East Kent Goldens, or some of the European hops as well, you're like, shit, this smells different. This is like a different league of hop.
Yeah.
Do you see a big difference between like the beer drinkers from like the UK and from here and what they want in each of your bars?
Sure. 100%. So what we did in that original brewery was we eventually in that first year came up with an IPA called Jaipur, which was 5.9% IPA. And that was using American hops. It had some Chinook and it had a Tannin. I can't remember what else was in that original recipe, but pale malt and then just a lot of hops. And that was the beer that kind of turned or made Thornbridge Brewery. It was this Jaipur, which was the guy that owned the estate had a connect. I think he was married in Jaipur in India to his wife, so he had a huge connection to India. So like IPA was awesome for him, and the the original interpretation of IPA being big English beer that was transported to India. What we then were able to do is like, well, let's make it the modern interpretation, and you load it with the American hops like they do in San Diego.
Right.
And so that beer was like super transformative in that area where people were drinking best bitter at 4% or 4.3%, and that was basically a mild best bitter and maybe an English pale now and again, but that was roughly the beer market. Ranged from 3.8 to 4.5% alcohol, and all of a sudden we're coming out and selling this beer at 6% alcohol, 60 IBUs, loaded with American hops.
Wow, it's a big, bold beer.
In a cask format.
Oh man.
And it's like, shit, what is that? And there was like so many, and also like probably about 50% price premium over anything else in the market as well, because they were all like 35-40 pounds a 9-gallon firkin at that point, and it needs to be like 65, otherwise we just can't even cover our costs. So we're totally like tearing the market to pieces with this new beer, but people try it. The landlords in that area are like super receptive. They're like, great new business, we'll give a cask a go, see what happens, And then you get stories of, people going in and on a Thursday evening to have their usual 6 pints in their local pub in the Peak District, and then they'd like disappear and be seen like 3 days later. Because all of a sudden they're drinking this 6% IPA rather than their 3.5% beer.
Yeah, it's a big difference. That's a big change. And then you guys obviously took that kind of your experience from that and applied it
100%.
to Brewdog, where like your first beer out of the gate's a big. Yeah. I mean, for that time, a big IPA.
For sure. That was the key for us. Is like, shit, we love this amazing, stronger in terms of, I guess, UK comparison beer, but loaded with flavours. Like, why drink something that has the taste of nothing when you can have these incredible beers? And for us at that time, our early time in Brewdog was all cask beer, a little bit of bottle beer, and you're like, well, why do I have to drink the the alternative, which
Yeah.
which especially in Scotland, it was even worse in Scotland. You know, in England you had a nice sort of microbrewing scene. In Scotland, and where we were in the northeast of Scotland, there was nothing. You know, so I was working there for 2 years, and I loved working there, but there was something saying, you know, I need to do this myself. Like,
Yeah.
I can't work for other people. And
Yeah.
like, can I do this? No, you can't, but you can do this. It's like, why?
Yeah.
You know?
You're now one of the big names behind one of the big breweries, and starting to be in the U.S. as well, in the Brewdog. Like, how often do you actually get to do hands-on brewing? And if it's not that much, do you miss it? How has that kind of changed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of to answer your question, I think as you know, the brewery now is, in general, with all parts of the business, is over you know, 1 million hectolitres in size, and you know, the majority of my time at the moment is overseeing some of the big projects that are going, like our AD plant, or new brew house in Scotland, and our canning line, as well as hop harvest at the moment. So, you know, hands-on brewing is not a lot, if ever, at the moment.
Yeah.
Same with distilling as well. You know.
Yeah.
It's another part which is super, I guess, close to my heart, with our distillery that we have in Scotland, and the small one here as well. But I guess the beauty of where we are is that you just have to build a team of people that are better than you and can do things better. And you know, our brewing guys are awesome, and JK, who runs our UK brewing site, is 10 times the brewer I'll ever be. But the beauty of working like that is that I get to give him my stupid ideas, and you know, it's that discussion, and that discussion, and it's like, you know, what can be done, because I think, you know, James and myself are both sort of pretty opinionated on certain aspects on how we want it to look or be or feel, or how we can be better. And that's the key as well, I think, as brewers, is like, you can just never really be satisfied with with what you've made. There's always like, how do we make it a little bit better?
Right.
Which is really important. It's really important, but it means that you're on that never-ending journey of trying to get to perfection. It's like you don't know when you hit it. Maybe you go too far and it starts to go down. But but yeah.
So for you, has that, like, Brewdog has grown to such a size that you're probably not going to ever be a brewer again, at least not as a job. I mean, if you want to brew, you can brew, but has it been interesting for you, or maybe even more stimulating than if you stayed a brewer, because now you do something different? You're building a business that you have to be in charge of all these different people, and you don't do everything, you're not hands-on on everything, but it's a different challenge for you than if you had continued just brewing beer for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting journey. You know, when we started Brewdog in 2007, it was, you know, James and myself and his dad's dog. You know, that was it. So that was 100% hands-on, every day, brewing, packaging,
everything,
moving stuff. And you know, James at that time was he was still a fisherman, and you know, getting his captain's ticket. So he was I guess a lawyer to education, and then decided after a week that he didn't want to be a lawyer and he wanted to be a fisherman. And that was, you know, he went back to be a fisherman at the same time I moved to England to be a brewer. So he would come down and check out what we're doing down there, and I was like, I need to get out of here and I need to do my own thing. And he's like, well, I've got plenty of time when I'm not fishing. You know, and I love beer, maybe we can do it together. And I was like, great, let's do it together. So, you know, that was the way it started, and then you've got that journey from 2007 to where we are in 2022, which has gone from us doing everything to our first employees, to moving brewery from Fraserburgh to Ellen in 2012, 2013, and you know, that was like, I guess, in terms of that initial ambition, dream. You know, my dream was always to have an incredible looking brewery that is semi-automated. You don't have to pull the grain out, you don't have to load it by hand in the top. Those early days were super hard in terms of like manual work, but also like a little bit dangerous as well in terms of what you were doing. You're lifting malt bags up to the top to load it in, and it's fine if you're doing it yourself, but if you're asking like your employees to do the same, then that's not so cool. So we've always had a big focus on, as we've grown as a business, making sure we were, I guess, de-risking the jobs that were being done. And so that was 2007. Where we are today, I think, is we have a great team in every brewery that we have of health and safety, of making sure that we're looking after each other and I guess calling out safe practices. So like best example currently is massively off topic, but like best example currently is I've got a pair of like Puma trainers with steel toes, right? And so I walk around the brewery in Ellen and I constantly get called out for wearing trainers in the brewery. And they don't realise it's safety.
But they're steel toes.
They're steel toes, right?
Cool.
But the beauty is that every time the plant manager's saying, Martin, why are you walking around the brewery in trainers? And it's like, it's not trainers, it's like steel toes, but no one knows that. But they constantly, it doesn't matter who you are in the business, they'll call you out if you look like you're operating unsafely. They'll call you out, and that's what we've tried so hard to get, is that it doesn't matter who you are in the business. If you're in a place where you shouldn't be, or you're doing something that doesn't look safe, it's like, call it out straight away. You're not gonna,
we have an Amazon affiliate link. What shoes are those, so I can put them in
it's not these
kidding.
ones. They're next door, but I can show you them.
So, along the way building Brewdog, you guys have built a strong reputation for doing some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, obviously, a lot of people here in the U.S. know the Brewdogs TV show, and but you guys have done a lot of things like driving a tank down the streets of London. You brewed the strongest beer in the world and sold it out of a taxidermied squirrel. I mean, you've done a lot of
what I was going to say is we don't have many regrets, but one of our regrets was when we were in Edinburgh. You had like one of the highest ABVs in the world, I think, at the time, and we didn't try it. I don't know why we did not. However, so yes, go ahead with your thing, because that's what you're getting ready to talk about.
So like, how did you guys come up with that?
Those ideas
And that strategy of doing really off the wall stuff.
Please don't tell us it's a marketing agency that told you that.
No, 100% not.
I'm pretty sure most of them would say don't do that.
It goes back, I guess, to your earlier point about where that sort of punk ethos or whatever came from. And so where we were in the northeast of Scotland was we were trying to sell beers that weren't there ever before, probably shouldn't be there, and it was a struggle, to be honest. We had some great ideas though. We had the idea that if you sell a case of beers, either a 12 or a 24, we thought, what about if a case was 48 bottles, so that if you sold one case, you would buy a case, and like, so when you turn up with like 40, it's like, this is a case. So you instantly double your sales, right? The bad thing with that was they were so fucking heavy. They would like fold in the middle as you're trying to lift them up. So that was
So you guys actually did that back then?
We did that. Our first cases, we ended up with like 1,000 of these cases, because that was our initial order of cases, were like cases of 48.
Cases.
So somebody's ordered
cases of 48.
So retailers are ordering a case of however many cases and thinking they're getting 24 per case, and you show with twice as much beer, and they're like, what the hell am I going to do with that?
Well, the problem was they couldn't even get it into their place because they fucking folded before they got it there. But yeah, that didn't work as a great idea. And it was weird because we had like a couple of bars, maybe 10 bars in that northeast of Scotland, that that would take our beers, and like, you go into Aberdeen in 2007, down by the harbour. It's a great bar, or it's not there anymore. It's called something else, but it was called the Moorings, right? So it was right on the harbour, and it had gone through like many stages of regeneration over the years, being like right on the dock. You can imagine what it's been in its past, but at one point it was like a dive bar, but focused on beer. So you could go there and get pints on cask of our 10% imperial stout aged in a Islay whiskey cask. So it was like smoky, full-on madness. 10% beer by the pint in this bar in Aberdeen. It was like something that's never been a thing ever, but it was like one of the most incredible like flavoured beers in a format that should never be available to anyone. But it was so much fun. So like there were people that were like, cool, whatever you've got, we'll do it. The majority were like, we don't know what this is, we don't want it. So
right.
I mean, I guess I had the technical background. James was the sales, or had to become the sales guy. So he's like, shit, how do we sell our beer in this area? And that's where the, I guess, genesis of some of these ideas of how we make beer underwater, or make the strongest beer in the world, or drive a tank through Camden to open our bar in Camden. And it's just about, for us, it was about doing something that's fun, exciting and different, but it's that conversation piece that might be picked up in a local newspaper or people in the bar, and they're saying, shit, have you tried this beer that's 18%, right? 18, that was like original Tokyo was 12%. It was a 12% imperial stout, 330ml bottle, aged with jasmine cranberry, dry hopped and aged on oak chips, and then dry hopped at the very last stage with Cascade. And that was like £15 a bottle. It's probably most expensive beer ever sold in the UK. But it was like divisive because it was 12% alcohol. So like some of the media stuff were saying this is so irresponsible, and we're saying, well, actually it's not irresponsible. You try drinking a bottle of that, or which poor guy in the street, homeless guy, is drinking this. It's like it's like the same price as a bottle of champagne. No one's abusing this.
Right.
You're buying this beer and you're sharing it with a couple of friends because it's so flavour intensive. It's so strong. It's like you're not just drinking that by the bottle.
It's like buying a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey or something. You're not going to buy a bottle of whiskey and just down it yourself. Most people aren't.
Unless it's a Thursday, but yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's exactly that, and it was like a conversation starter, and it was all about actually how do we reframe beer in a different way, in a way where it's all about flavour, it's all about the process, it's all about the craftsmanship that goes into it, and that was the starting point, and it's like, okay, well, how far can we kind of go with this? So the backlash we got from Tokyo, then the counter beer to that was Nanny State. Okay, so it was originally a beer that was 1.2% alcohol. I think the original Nanny State Brew, which is like how much flavour can we load into the lowest ABV beer we can make, and it was Nanny State, and then eventually, so I guess Tokyo got higher in strength and Nanny State got lower in strength, but they both were elevated in terms of flavour, and it was like these little, it's like competitions that you set yourself for. Whatever David and Goliath things that you would set with, whether it was Diageo or someone, you always try to find, I guess, someone to have a little bit of a reason to try and better them, or to try and do something different.
Right.
It's the prime, I guess, the best examples. Brew, the guys in Germany who had the strongest beer in the world. Okay, so then they held that title, and we're like, okay, we'll make Tactical Nuclear Penguin. So we made Tactical Nuclear Penguin, and they made Brew 30%, and then we made
you guys kept one up.
we made Sink the Bismarck at 41%, then they made their Brew 50%, then we made End of History at 55%, and then eventually they made one higher, and then we made one together a year or so ago as the kind of completion to that series. But it's so much fun, and it's that talking piece, and it's like why can't beer be whatever your imagination wants it to be?
I like that.
That's cool.
So what's next?
I mean, what's next at the moment is, a few things from the beer front and bar front. We've got some huge openings this year with Waterloo, which is a station in London. So that's our biggest bar that we've ever opened. In a few weeks' time, or a month and a half's time, we'll have Las Vegas, which is,
that's an interesting one to me because Vegas is such a destination.
Yeah.
Like for people around the United States, but around the world, and like you guys are going really big there, and you're going to be highly noticeable with the look of the outside. So I'm like, it'll be interesting to see what that does because I imagine that's going to be an explosion for the brand across the United States.
That's our hope for sure. Like I got married in Las Vegas in 2013.
Did you do a drive-through chapel?
Yeah, I was like.
Wait, you did a drive-through chapel?
I met the girl the night before, and then we got.
Full of shit.
It was my wife and I are both from. I've got a brother. She's got 2 sisters, and everyone was married in our family before. I was like, fine, we'll just go out and do our own thing. So we went out to. We've been together forever. We went out to Vegas in 2013 with a couple of friends and flew out to the Grand Canyon, got married there, and came back and mucked about for a week in the back of that. It was a lot of fun. So I guess from my perspective, Vegas is a kind of special place in my heart. But yeah, the site there's phenomenal. That's like a game changer for us again. It's like what's driving a tank up Camden in London is like a Brewdog bar right on the strip in Las Vegas is just that's like next level.
Before we leave, why is James not here? We heard he was on an accident in mountain biking, and like our podcast is also about like adventure and mountain biking. So like,
okay, well maybe you should give him some lessons on how to ride.
I don't know. I heard a rumor that maybe he was like mountain biking on some kind of an event that he broke his clavicle.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And now he's like stuck.
He was taking the tour of a mountain biking event, and
damn it, James.
And came a cropper coming down the hill. But like, thankfully, he fell left instead of right. He fell left and like landed on his head and his collarbone. If he'd fallen right, you'd have gone off the cliff.
Would he been jumping over the cliff?
That's definitely lucky.
Okay, yes, land on your head.
We'll take the broken collarbone. That are the preferred option for sure. Well, it's too bad he's not here. He's missing out on AGM 2022.
First AGM he's ever missed, to be honest, of all the AGMs we've done.
Actually, when was the first one?
I think it was like, I should know that, 9 or 10, but it was in Aberdeen, right?
Okay.
So it was like a really weird setup. So we had like maybe 100 people, I think, maybe 120, but it went from. So James was in. He had a restaurant in Aberdeen at that time called Musa. So he was there doing the business talk. I was in our first bar in Aberdeen doing like some kind of weird shit. It was like beer and music, where everyone was like blindfolded and listening to music and tasting beer.
Cool.
And then Stuart Bowman, who was our sort of head brewer at that point, was in the brewery in Fraserburgh doing the brewery tour, and then everyone was like bussed around. So it was like there's 3 groups, and they got bussed between each one. It was really strange but fun. So that was the first one, and then it's changed a lot since then.
Yes. And when was the first one in the US?
2017. I wasn't at the first one. Okay. Because
17 or 16?
It could have been 16 actually. I think it was 16 because it was before the brewery was fully open.
Okay.
And I was in the UK. It would have been 2016 because my daughter had just been born. That's why I missed it. So that was happening.
I mean, it's like typical history lessons. You have to know the freaking dates. Nothing about what's going on, but you need to memorize those damn dates. No.
Yeah, I know. I'm not good at that either.
No, not at us at all. All right.
And speaking of AGM, we've probably taken up enough of your time today. We got to get you back out to your
You need to go
peoples
party.
and drink with some more
Try some
EFPs
beer.
out there.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
There's
We need to go
100,
drink some.
100 and something
Yeah,
beers
there's a
on
lot of
tap.
beers out there to try, and I think you said you only got through a handful of them, so you got like 90 some to go.
97 to go, and 14 of them are from Nano Dog Nick, and I think the average
Oh, boy.
ABV is like 10% or something.
Good luck.
Well, with
And
that,
you guys tried some last night,
Yes,
so
oh my
yeah.
gosh, plenty
Yes.
last night at the beer share, yeah.
You need
So,
a lot of
I don't know,
luck.
do you have beer in that?
yeah.
There's still some
Okay,
beer
good.
there.
So, because we need to do cheers. Cheers to, oh my
Okay.
god. I don't know. Cheers to coming. You've been in the U.S. for a while, but still, we're grateful. We're grateful that we also got to experience Brewdog in Scotland, and we're grateful
Wow.
that you took the time to talk to us.
Well,
Brewdog's coming to our home base in Denver. So.
Was on record.
Yeah, it was on the screen.
It was on
outside.
the screen outside. Don't make it.
That's no big
Thanks
secret.
for your time today. It's like great to
Thanks
hang
for
out
your time
Thank
today.
you.
and
Thank
bore
you
you
so much.
with the story.
No, I'm not.
No,
boring
not
you.
at all.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cool. Thank
Awesome.
you. Can I ask a very weird question? Would you take our picture of the three of us in the shower?
In the shower?
Yes.
Okay.
First, you need to get permission from all involved to be in the shower together.
Well, I know can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, we really did take a picture with Martin in the shower.
Well, it's
April's kind of whack. She was feeling her inner hippie chick, I guess, that day or something. And like, if you want to see the picture, go to the website, check it out. It's on the website with the podcast.
we're at the Doghouse. So, and the Doghouse has the shower, and the shower has the shower beer. So, like, punk, man. Not inner hippie chick. Not on this one. It's punk attitude.
Inner punk chick.
Yes.
Inner
So,
punker chick. You're going like full on Ramones. Nice.
so you take the picture in the shower. Where else do you get shower beer? Like, literally, it's in the shower. So, I'm changing the subject right now. Speaking of mountain bike crashes, because we were talking about mountain bike
You
crash,
got to bring up the mountain bike crashes.
Kenny fell, if you guys don't recall, had a mountain bike crash. But like went over the handlebars. Did like a nice little flip. I don't know, I didn't see it. But anyhow, Kenny, how's your shoulder doing from that?
Well, right now, it's doing quite well because I'm self-medicating with this Christmas beer.
We did say we were going to talk about Christmas beers.
Then we should fucking talk about Christmas beers. Ho, 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 bitches.
What Christmas beer are you drinking? What Christmas beer are we drinking?
This is actually Anchor's Christmas beer, which they've been doing for don't remember exactly, but it's right around 40 years that they've been making their Christmas beer. But every single year, Anchor changes the recipe a little bit. And they've been doing that for 40 years. It's always, generally from year to year, it's kind of similar, but there's some cool subtle changes and stuff. And another kind of interesting thing is they always change the label on the bottle every year too. They like hire an artist to do a new label every year, and it's always been some kind of like cool tree themed thing.
For those that don't know, what kind of beer is it?
Damn it. You really had to throw me into the bus like that? Because this is a really hard beer to nail down. It's kind of so it's a holiday beer, Christmas ale, so it falls into that winter warmer kind of category, I would say. But it's a really hard one to nail down because they won't tell you exactly how they make this beer every year. That's their super secret recipe every year because, you know, they want to, that's the thing about this beer is there's a mystique around it. And so obviously you want it because there's mystique around it. And it's kind of I would say this one is kind of a dark brown beer, and it's got a lot of like piney, sprucey kind of flavor to it.
Does it also have, to me, I can taste some sort of a molasses kind of, like a sweetness in there?
There is some kind of sweetness in it. I'm not sure if it's molasses or not. I mean, but yeah, I think you're going down the right track. That molasses, dark brown, whatever, dark brown sugar. But yeah, that's probably a little bit too much sensory overload for audio.
I was asking about molasses too, though, because it kind of, not quite, but it kind of has a similar, and I suppose that's the winter warmer kind of Christmas beer. Mm-hmm. what else you want to call all the Christmas beers, holiday beers. What I was trying to say is that molasses made me think of a winter warmer beer that we brewed. That turned out quite nice.
This one's a little better than what we brewed, but I actually am very happy with what we brewed.
Duh. I mean, of course, but we are happy with what we brewed, but it's Anchor. Duh.
Yeah. They've got several levels of expertise on me.
But we brewed a winter warmer, and it was really turned out pretty good. And then I know you can't get our winter warmer unless you're hanging out with us. So if you happen to be in Denver before Christmas, we can give that to you. But there are also a lot of other Christmas beers out there. Like, what are some other popular ones? Maybe for those who don't know Christmas beers. Like Deschutes.
Go ahead.
Deschutes Jubilee.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
one.
That's one I would say. And like this year, we actually, not too long ago, picked up some Jubal Ale that had like a cherry version of it that was really good. But there's like a lot of, the cool thing with the winter holiday Christmas style beers is they can really touch all over the board. Sierra Nevada does a very good Christmas time beer called Celebration Ale, which is a fresh hop beer. So it's, when you think fresh hop, you think IPA, but it's really kind of more in that, I'd almost say it kind of like a hoppy barley wine kind of flavor to it. Although it's not quite that big as most barley wines as far as ABV goes and stuff. But it's like, that's a really, really good Christmas type beer.
Most craft breweries
There's a lot of good ones out there.
Go to right now are going to have like a winter warmer or kind of the higher ABV beers or something that just get you all warm and cozy inside because 'tis the season. So if you want to find something different, that's what you can do too. Actually, though, if you're looking for some last minute gifts that can't ship, go to your local craft brewery and see what they have to go, or if they have any special beers, or if there's even it has to be a really good liquor store. Don't take away business from the craft breweries, man. But if it's a really good local liquor store that you have and they have like really good sourcing, those are some great ways to get some really good beers for last minute Christmas gifts.
Yeah, you can find some really cool stuff at the liquor stores. Like you might, depending on where you're at, you might be able to get like Prairie Artisan Ales, like their Christmas Bomb is a really cool Christmas stout thing. And there's a lot of different ones like that out there. And shameless plug, we have an article on our website about Christmas beers that you could go there and get some ideas and stuff for things to look for at your local liquor store. But do go to the local breweries, because even if they don't have like cans already made and stuff, a lot of them, you guys probably know, do crowlers and things like that. So you can get stuff to go even if they don't pre-package it.
Kenny didn't finish the same shameless plug.
Oh, sorry.
It will be in the show notes.
Oh, sorry. In the show notes, we will be talking all about Christmas beer, and you can click right through our show notes into the Christmas beer article and learn all about Christmas beers.
Yes. And on that note, maybe we
Did that sound professional?
No.
No? Okay. I'm rarely accused of sounding professional, so it fits.
So maybe we should kind of wish you all adieu and Happy New Year and Feliz Cumpleaños and Happy Holidays and all the things, because this is our last podcast of 2022.
Yeah, it is. It is. But we'll have some fun stuff
coming
up for you.
We have big
some
plans.
Surprises in the works.
We have big plans for 2023. Y'all just wait and see. You better tell your friends so you don't miss out. Are y'all ready for your own AGM? Because it's Christmas, dude, and every single Christmas party is generally annual general mayhem. So, yeah.
Yeah, whether you're listening to this, whenever you're listening to this, Christmas, New Year's, whatever. Yeah. Enjoy your mayhem.
Yeah. Oh, cheers to the mayhem. As long as it's good mayhem.
Yes. Keep it good.
Oh, wait. What's the commercial I'm thinking of with the mayhem?
Oh, no.
Sorry.
No, we don't like that kind of mayhem.
It's the insurance. It's the insurance guy.
We don't like the insurance kind of mayhem. I don't like anything that involves insurance.
Mayhem. Okay, cheers to good mayhem.
Cheers to good mayhem.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
And all the things.
Yeah, may you have all the beers you've ever dreamed of. Peace out. We'd love to hear from you, so keep the conversation going. Send us a note, share a beer recommendation or two, or just say hey. This Stout conversation has been brought to you by livingastoutlife.com, where you can find community and resources for all your craft beer travel and adventure lifestyle needs.